All right. Hello, everybody. How you doing? We're here today to chat about some stuff. We're going to talk about Stephen Brendan, $50 million bullet. Here with Mr. Capaldi. We might actually have the Hod pop in at some point and join us. We'll see how that goes out. But we're here, and right now we're going to basically talk about. Well, I don't know. Let's talk about Dream Killer. Um, because I recently watched that, rewatched it because I'd seen it before. Rewatched it and kind of gave everybody some of my thoughts on that. I just find it remarkable how much that case for Zellner was very much like Brendan's in a sense, where that guy Chuck had, been. I mean, he didn't know the story. He came in trying to confess it because he said he had a dream or something and whatever, trying to confess, but he couldn't tell the right story, and so they eventually had to start telling him what the facts were. They had to start feeding it to him. I mean, going as far as to feeding him the unknown fact in the case, just like with Brendan. And I just found that to be phenomenal. I was just like, oh, whoa. I mean, they went that far. And I don't know. What do you think? Obviously I know you were watching The Dream Killer recently, and you were telling me I needed to go watch it.
And when have you ever done the things that I've recommended?
Oh well, I'd already watched it before, so
Yes, yeah. No, it was incredibly interesting. So many, as you say, similarities. I think just going back to what caused Chuck Erickson to come forward in the first place was it not the fact that there had been a newspaper article about the second anniversary of Kent Heitholt's murder, and they had got that picture, that photo fit that the one janitor woman had done,
right.
and apparently some of Chuck Erickson's friends were saying, "Dude, that looks like you. Was
Yeah.
that you? Was that you that did that? And it was that caused him to sort of start to, as you would say, freak out and realize, hell, that could have been me. That it might have been me that blacked out that one night.
Hmm.
And then he started having all these flashbacks, didn't he? And it was very interesting, very. Um, I mean, as I've mentioned already, when Kathleen Zellner makes an appearance, it's like, wow, now they have some serious representation. Although, tell me, what did you think of Ryan's dad, Bill Ferguson? Wasn't he impressive?
Yeah, he was. I mean, he's strong. He's.
Yeah. I mean, who in the in Stephen Brendan's case, who does he remind us of? I would say someone like Sandra Greenman, who's been there right from the start and has been really pushing. Was it not Sandra that got in touch with Kathleen Zellner in the first place?
Yeah. Well, but Steven's got a mom and dad, and they've been behind him too.
They have indeed, yes, yeah. Although bless her, Dolores, it's. I think it's, as we, as you've been to Manitowoc 2 years running now. I've been there once. Dolores is well, I mean, both Ma and Pa, they're in their 80s, aren't they? They're in their early 80s.
Yeah, they're up
You
there.
know. Yep, yep. But I suppose I know this. I know this might be a little bit. Well, you know me. I like to be a little bit sort of provocative at times. But I'm going to just come straight out and ask you. We clearly saw in Dream Killer that Kathleen Zellner has been there, done that, got the T-shirt. If
Right.
she had been representing Brendan, would she have done a better job than Brendan's current lawyers?
Well, I am not sure how to answer that because
I know it's a tricky
she
one.
did it without habeas. Originally with Ryan. Um,
I mean, she
I
had
don't
that
know.
huge knot. She had that huge knockback, wasn't it? Just after Kevin Crane, and I mean, you know, what on earth do we make of him?
Well, yeah. As soon as she took the case, who? Kevin Crane. Wait, Kevin Crane.
Oh, the prosecutor.
Oh yeah, him. Um, yeah, that guy was a piece of work. That guy looked so uncomfortable in that chair at the evidentiary hearing. You know, he's sitting there professing how he didn't do anything wrong or this or that or whatever. And Kathleen Zellner's just like there, just pointing out, look, this is this. And he came to a state agency, right? And
Mm.
somehow this was the story he told, and nobody checked. And
Yeah,
like, and so, you know, he's just worried about his butt being on the line, and he just watching him how uncomfortable he is in that chair is kind of hilarious to watch, honestly. But to find that judge that was watching that evidentiary hearing ended up, you know, pulling a Sukowitz, I guess you might say,
yeah, yeah.
and so she takes it to the appeals court, but then the appeals court saw the merits. So, well, I guess I'll answer your question in this way. We'll see what she gets out of the Wisconsin appeals court, and see if she has the same success with Stephen that she had with Ryan.
Hmm.
What do you think?
Well, yeah. Um, you know, I remember people were critical a while back of Kathleen Zellner, saying that she doesn't know anything at all about the corruption in Wisconsin. You know,
Right.
she just doesn't know what she's doing there. And for me, every time I see anything with Kathleen Zellner involved, she knows exactly what's going on. She can see exactly what was going on. I mean, what about the shenanigans that the state of, is it Missouri, were pulling in order to try and get her off of the case?
Oh yeah. Like they
You
were
know,
trying to
in this,
disqualify her as an attorney in the
oh yeah,
state before she could even try to defend,
yeah,
Ryan. Yeah,
yeah.
I thought that was interesting. She was like, this was the first time I had this experience it was just like everything was a fight. Every single thing was a fight. She's like, in the past, I'd just been able to take my findings over to the DA's office. They would look at it and go, "Oh, okay, that's concerning. Let's do an investigation." They would investigate and they would go, "Okay, yeah, we agree. Let's go ahead and start proceedings to whatever." She's like, "But this was a whole different thing."
Mm.
Like it was like literally every square inch, she was having to fight for vigorously, and so I thought that was interesting, and that's definitely what she's got with Avery. So.
Mm. Well, she actually used the words that you know they were threatening her, weren't they? They were trying to intimidate her, threaten her, you know, to sort of not to
Yeah.
not to help Ryan. And you know that's like red rag to a bull as far as Kathleen Zellner is concerned, isn't it? You know.
Yeah.
I mean that was probably their worst move because when they did give her that knockback, you know, and she refers to it in Making a Murderer too, doesn't she? She says that in the Ryan Ferguson case, you know, that she had something happen in that case that was far worse than anything that so far happened in Stephen's case.
Mm-hmm.
And I often wondered, well, I mean, I wonder what that was. And when you see the fact that, you know, these two witnesses have come forward and said it wasn't Ryan, and yet the judge, you know, in his ultimate decision, decided that neither of the witnesses had any credibility, and that was
Right.
that was his decision.
Well, then they didn't have credibility at trial. That's the problem with that decision. If they don't have credibility, then they didn't have it at trial. So, what's the conviction based on? Right? Because we know, just like Brendan,
Ryan's confession.
no physical evidence.
Yeah.
At all against Chuck or Ryan. None, zero. I mean, there's a lot of parallels. It's interesting.
Yeah, I mean Chuck Erickson. He's not by no means is he sort of limited intellectually, but obviously it doesn't matter how intelligent you are when you are being threatened the way he was in those initial interviews with It's your ass on the chopping block here,
Right.
and unless you come up with a story that incriminates Ryan Ferguson as well.
Right.
Again, it was like, they needed two killers in this case, didn't they?
Well, yeah,
For
because
whatever reason.
a witness, whatever it was, the witness had reported seeing two or whatever, right? So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So that's
yeah,
why when Chuck came, they were like, "Yeah, but who was with you?" And so
yeah,
Chuck ends up like, I guess he was with Ryan that night, and so he says, "Oh yeah, Ryan," you know,
yeah,
and then Ryan gets swept up in it.
yeah, yeah.
So,
But of course, one thing that was slightly different, of course, was that Chuck Erickson, they actually sort of managed to, they managed to persuade him to confess, partly because he didn't know whether he'd done it or he hadn't,
right,
because he was obviously in some sort of drunken, drug-induced coma that night.
yeah, certainly, yeah, something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
But then he suddenly became this credible witness. That was quite a stark
Right.
contrast, wasn't it? From his original interviews to when you see him in court.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
That's yeah.
who's responsible for changing him from this guy that doesn't know anything
Yeah.
to suddenly being this star witness, Mr. Kevin Crane?
Right. And that was
And
what
after, and,
Zellner basically showed him. She's like, "Look, this is what they did to you. This is
yeah,
what when they were questioning you and feeding you all that information. This is what they knew."
hmm
And she started showing him that stuff, and so she allowed him to see it, read it, and put it all together in his own mind to where he was calling her back, going, "Okay, I want to blow the whistle on this whole damn thing," right?
yep,
So, um, yeah, so she's brilliant, and she has that way of doing that, and that's good. I don't know how that's going to exactly help in Steven's case, but she has a way of doing
well,
that with certain inmates to like the way she was able to string Eiler along and eventually get him to tell her all of his gruesome details so that after he was gone she could give all those families closure. I mean,
hmm
that's brilliant. I mean, that's an amazing thing that she did, because otherwise those people would have never gotten it.
yeah,
Larry Eiler would have taken it to the grave, and you know that would have been it.
yeah. I mean,
So,
there was another case where Zalman actually made 50 visits to a female
oh yes,
murderer who eventually she on the witness stand she got up and said, "Yeah, I did it."
yeah,
But if you remember rightly, Kathleen Zellner told us way back when she first started on the case. She said her scientists would be the one that would vacate that, guilty verdict on Steve.
right, yeah, because
That's what she said right from the start, didn't she? I must admit, I knew nothing about what she was talking about. Other than the fact that yes, we'd seen that that there hadn't been much scientific evidence presented at trial, and that was presented by the state was bogus anyway. You know,
hmm
Hoodlatch DNA,
yeah,
DNA on the key,
right,
DNA on the bullet, how the key was found.
yep.
It's all stuff that yes,
How the
you can
bullets
get some
found,
you can get scientists to come in and say, well, this didn't happen. This that that is impossible.
right?
You know,
As you say, was Teresa made of bits of wood,
yeah.
right? So, yeah.
Also, do you know if the when Zellner and her expert is it Palanek, the guy with the powerful
Chris
microscope?
Palahniuk at Microtrace,
Yes,
yep.
yeah. When they look at the bullet, I presume that they are at the moment they are only allowed to look at the bullet. They're not actually allowed to sort of remove little bits of that wood to try and analyze what it is. Maybe there isn't enough there anyway.
You're talking about tiny, tiny pieces at a microscopic level. I
Yeah,
don't think so because they said it doesn't even wash off in when they wash the bullet, like do it like a to simulate a DNA wash.
Yeah.
When they do that, that doesn't even wash the bits of wood and paint that are embedded into
Hmm.
the lead. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't think so though.
No, no. Yeah, it's as you say, it's such a tiny bits of wood, but how did they get there?
Right.
You know, and
Well,
how
it's
does that
just
bullet?
it's just it happens to be tiny little. I mean, you're probably going to be talking about a handful of wood cells, or tree
Yes,
cells, that
right.
are that microscope is seeing. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So anyway.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, even then, her scientists are able to show the comparison between, you know, the bullet that was fired by, is it Dan Haig out in
I
Arizona?
believe
You
that's
know,
it.
that
Yeah.
that went through the bone. They were able to show the one that went through the bone what it should look like. Then a scientist were able to show, well, this is what the bullet looks like, and this is what the bullet looks like that we fired into the bottom of Steve's garage. You
Right.
know, now, I don't care how stupid those judges are. Surely they can look at that and go, hmm, which one matches?
Yeah. Right.
You know,
I'm I'm actually planning to do a experiment regarding the bullet. It just so happens my boss just built
mm-hmm.
a firing range out at his property.
All right,
So I'm gonna go out there with a 22 rifle.
yeah,
The one that doesn't, the one that takes the regular 22 size bullet, not the larger 22 bullet that they sometimes use because what they call it, the gopher smasher or something like that. It's for specifically for getting gophers or something. Anyway, it just has a tiny bit more weight to it. Hits a little harder, goes a little faster. But I'm gonna get a regular normal type, one basically, and I'm gonna go ahead and fire some into. I'm gonna take some, pieces of bone I'll get from a butcher or something like that or whatever, and fire through and see. Number one, do about maybe 5 or 6 shots, and see what the shape of my slug looks like after going through a piece or two of bone, and what the
mm-hmm.
shape of the slug is, and then also do another 5 or 6 shots where I fire through a piece of painted plywood, and do 5 or 6 shots through that and see what the slugs look like there. Then taking slugs from that, going and finding a little surface somewhere, a concrete surface with a large opening on one side, so that I can demonstrate the way I believe the dust was moved in the garage, and how it makes it even more inexplicable that that bullet had no dust on it anywhere on
Mm-hmm.
it, or even in the little concave shape on top that's kind of like a little bowl, how there was none there either. So I have a little experiment in mind for all that. So, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna actually go out and fire a weapon to do it. So anyway,
Right, that kind of firing range. So that isn't a case of, bring you into the house, say you're fired.
no, not like that. No,
No,
it's where
no,
you
that's
go
good.
with
That's good.
guns, and they have targets and little platforms where you can shoot at things, and
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. You might do that. I don't do that here in the UK.
I
Although
know
they
you
do
don't.
have
I know.
they do have rifle range, and I do know people that do have rifles, but the ones that they use for this sort of competitive shooting, they don't even look like your
Yeah.
sort of what Wild West rifles that you have over there.
Yeah. Nope.
Anyway,
This is a different place over here.
it is indeed, yes, yes. Hello there, Mark. Just
Howdy.
one more
Hey,
question,
there he is.
just quickly before Mark gets to interrogate you. Um, any plans on a doing a chat with Travis and going through the filings? I realise that it's been a
You mean
bit of a
going through
burden
the appeal?
trying to get that put together. It's not been easy, so I do
We're working on
sympathise.
it.
But yeah,
We're
I just
working on
wanted
it,
to give you.
folks. Travis is a practicing attorney.
He is.
So you just got to deal with it. For the moment, he's working something pretty big. So when he finds the time, he's already told us he's going to get it done here pretty soon. So
Yeah, yeah.
you know, we'll just
Well,
give him a little more time because, like I said, he's on a pretty big case. So.
sure. Can I just give a shout out A to Travis and B a heads up, and that is that he suggested watching The Confession Killer,
Right.
and I think it's in 5 parts. It tells the story of Henry Lee Lucas.
Yeah.
Okay. And of course, what's going to be interesting is that Travis has actually pointed out that obviously because a lot of it is in Texas, it's to do with the Texas Rangers, and some of it is Austin. He knows some of the people involved, or quite a lot of the people involved, but it's like there are so many. It's like so many stories within that whole story that are absolutely fascinating. And the way that the Texas Rangers and their boss go after the one district attorney, I don't think I've ever felt sympathy for a district attorney, but in this case, you actually do feel sorry for him. And
yeah,
like I've just said to you off air, I said I can see exactly how it was that Glynn and Kelly were told, you drop this now, you've no chance. We could come after you big time. Don't worry about that. And honestly, folks, watch Confession Killer, because I thought that was incredibly revealing. Hi, Mark. How's it going?
Well, thank you. Down on the other side of the planet.
Yes.
All good.
Yep.
Summer here. Summer. So
I know. Yes. And you've just walloped the Pakistan
yes.
at cricket, and I think they've gone off to South Africa now to play. I think that's what they've done.
Yeah. What happened in New Zealand? By the way, I just didn't.
Yeah, the Test series finished 1-0 to New Zealand. They walloped England in the first Test, and in the second Test, England couldn't get New Zealand out in the second innings, so 1-0 to the Black Caps, and then in the England did win a 5-match T20 series that was very good. But anyway, who's going to win the Super Bowl?
All right.
I don't even know who's going to be in it. So
well, Packers are now, what are they, 10-2?
I remember they were actually. I think they were 8-3 when I was in Wisconsin. So, or was it 11? No.
Kansas City looks like the team to beat.
Do they? Yeah. Oh, well.
Yeah.
No, because I mean the 49ers beat Andrew's team, didn't they? What was it? 46-44. That was some game, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's
a lot of scoring.
That's that's like a hell of a lot of no defense in that game.
Yeah,
that's right.
Even I can do the maths. That's nearly 100 points in a game.
It's hard to score that many points in a game. I mean, it's
literally
hard to fit them in.
46 and 44 is 100. What am I on about?
Oh, Stacy Seabrook has joined us.
Oh, hi, Stace.
What did you say? 46 and 44 is 100. Have another go.
No, he was saying close to, But
I said it was nearly 100.
Nearly.
I said it was nearly.
Qualifying word. You gotta.
Anyway,
hello, Janet Smart. Sorry, go ahead. All right, so that's enough about that stuff. All right.
Yeah, let's get on to
us talk about making a murder, true crime kind of stuff. Anyway.
Well, now that Mark is here, can I be provocative and ask him the same question that I asked you?
Not?
Yes.
Okay. I'll put it very, very bluntly. Given the fact that we see Kathleen Zellner do such a superb job with Ryan Ferguson, given the similarities between Ryan Ferguson's case and obviously Brendan Dassey, would Kathleen Zellner have done a better job with Brendan Dassey than his current lawyers?
Oh, I wouldn't want to answer that question.
I know you wouldn't.
So, not to say one way or the other. I think it's he has a current set of lawyers who are doing a job. I think that's Brendan's obviously happy with them, and so is Brendan's family. So I think it's too hypothetical to imply.
Yeah, I don't think Brendan has any choice in the matter where he is in his situation, in the same way that Stephen doesn't in many ways. It's they don't have, unfortunately, certain privileges. No, I suppose what you could say is that, what an amazing job she did with Ryan Ferguson, and it was interesting how the state of, is it Missouri?
Yes.
They were just so corrupt in all of this, and if you remember the last 2 or 3 years, we've had people, both truthers and guilters, saying, "Oh, Kathleen Zellner doesn't know what she's doing."
Oh God.
And it's like, hold on a sec, just watch her in action. I know it's only an hour and a half, and unfortunately, we don't always get all of the details of it, do we? But we get enough to see. Wow, she really does know what she's doing when she comes on.
Society has a bit of an uncanny desire for just instant gratification. And when they don't get it, which court stuff tends to frustrate you in that way and holds you back from instant gratification. So I think sometimes people just get a little buggy.
Right. I don't quite see what you're talking about, but that's maybe just me.
I don't see what I'm talking
I mean,
about.
I don't know. So
All right. Well, anyways.
So let me just. I think you made a statement. I'm not sure whether you'd like me to respond. But in respect, I mean, the thing about Dream Killer and specifically to Kathleen is just to show you how she never gives up and how thorough she is. I mean, to see what happened in that evidentiary hearing process, where you have the two prime witnesses, forget the gentleman's name, and
Jerry Trump,
his co-defendant, totally recant what they said.
Yeah,
and then the judge ultimately says, "Oh, they're unreliable. They're reliable enough to convict him, but unreliable to release him." How there you go.
Right. Yeah.
But Kathleen Zellner doesn't give up. And she exposed a little bit of her raw emotion in that film, and she was obviously taken aback by that decision in the early part, but that only doubled her down to make sure she got the right decision. And when she pursued it up the line, she got what was deserved.
Yeah.
So.
Well, she talked about dismantling the state's case, and that's exactly what she did, and that's exactly what she's doing with Stephen Avery.
And she's not leaving any stone unturned here. There's nothing in his conviction that it hasn't been addressed. In fact, it's more than that now, because she's discovered new stuff that was deliberately withheld. So.
But what did you make of in effect the dirty tactics of the state in trying to even get it off the case, and it's like, wow, that again another similarity with what's going on in Wisconsin. They just she said herself, "I don't think I'll be welcome in Manitowoc."
I know. I mean, even just the Kevin Crane's manipulation and of the guy again. I've forgotten his name. You'll mention him again.
Chuck Erickson
about the photos in the newspaper. Seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just
absolute turn. Yeah.
Oh, Chuck Erickson is the other.
That was Jerry Trump who said that he was talking about the fact the page was folded down the centre.
Yeah, but it was actually folded that way.
Actually, yeah, that way.
Yeah, but I mean, to hear his words or what went on there is just stomach turning. What the lengths to which Crane went to pollute the justice process, and then as they do, they get rewarded with being appointed as a judge.
Yeah. Right. The good news is he's no longer a judge.
Oh, is that right?
I've yet to find out. Yeah, he was an ex-judge by 2018, but I've yet to discover if it was because he was, somehow reprimanded internally for his conduct in that case. I'm going to have to do a bit more digging, which,
Cat toy and
as you
clerk?
probably...
Anyway, no. Anyways.
A what,
Stacy
Don? A what?
Seabrook. I said cat toy and a clerk. Never mind. Anyways,
Oh, yeah.
Stacy Seabrook has a provocative question.
Yep.
And he
Good.
asks, he wants an answer from each of us, he says, do you think that the Court of Appeals is independent and or not infiltrated by corruption? Mark?
Are we talking about the Wisconsin Court of Appeals?
Yes, of course, yes. Well,
it's a bit of a tricky question.
Stacy, that's the one he would be talking about.
Yeah.
Two seconds. I'm going to have a think about this. 2 seconds.
Oh God, he's got to go to his thinking room.
Yeah, right.
So,
Capaldi has gone to the throne.
That's right. The king of Scotland. So we have this situation. Of course, the Court of Appeals is a body, and in the terms of Stephen Avery's case, is I think a 3-judge panel.
Yeah.
So the question is the body independent, and the second part of that, are the minds of the individual justices independent? Do I think that? I'm going to give you the silly but relevant answer, and that is, let's just see how they deal with this matter, right? Their true independence.
Right.
Yeah, let's just see how they deal with it. We haven't seen them before. In fact, you would say that some of the things they've done in regard to Stephen's case would give you some level of comfort that they are independent. But I start on the basis that I give them the opportunity to show their independence and their professionalism, and we'll see what happens after that. There was a second part to that question. Can you just remind me what that was?
Just that
are they?
If whether or not it's infiltrated by corruption.
Well, I don't know is the answer to that question, but does it have the potential to be so? Sure, like any organisation is.
Right.
But I can't give a view one way or the other, not based on anything I know.
Right. All right, Paul.
It's a very very good question. I mean, first of all, obviously from a personal point of view, I'm very much a sort of glass full kind of person until I've emptied it. But yes, I do hold out hope that the Court of Appeals, based on, if we purely base it on their judgments so far and the tone of the remand back to Sukovich over the CD and then the bones,
right.
Makes me think that, and I believe that was Judge Paul Riley's decision. He's one of the three judges there in that in that District 2 of the Court of Appeals. Remember, we did have 4 judges, didn't we? We had Neubauer,
right. One moved on to the Supreme
Riley,
Court. Right.
Yeah. We had that Brian Hagedorn that went to the Supreme Court, and
Supreme Court.
Yeah, and of course Mark Gundrum. Well, of course, the suggestion is that Mark Gundrum, because he's got previous involvement in Steve's case, that he would not be involved in any decision. But certainly, what Paul Riley has decreed so far, I would say, gives us cause for hope. Also, when I was looking at the Ken Kratz case, and we went through the decision on the civil suit, didn't we? That SVG took out against Ken Kratz, and of course, who was it that ultimately was the judge in that case, and wrote some very, very good stuff, was actually Mike Griesbach's brother, who's a judge, right. William Griesbach, right. which I thought was very good. Having said that, we know that William Griesbach was actually the judge that looked at the $50 million lawsuit taken out by, was it Eagle Nation Cycles or was it Steve Arato? Are they one of the same, or was one as himself? Or
I think it was Michael Funk and Steve Arato, and they were Eagle Nation Cycles. So I mean,
yes.
But yeah, and yes, he was the one that ultimately dismissed their case, and there's a lot of hubbub around it. Steve Arado to this day is just incensed because his own lawyer didn't tell them they needed to be in court, and they ended up missing a court date that allowed the judge to do that. So it's been something that's been a big deal. But all right, to get back to answering Stacy's question for myself, in terms of corruption, I'm not going to speak. I'm going to wait and see what happens before I attempt to guess at what level of corruption there is. But in terms of the rest of my answer, it's a lot like Paul's, and except that I will focus in a little more closely on the wording of how unamused the Court of Appeals was with the state's argument regarding the bones. It didn't like anything about that. How it was, they only wanted to argue that Stephen was procedurally barred. But the whole argument was procedural bar. And the only place where they weren't arguing that, they were saying if Stephen Avery wanted to, pursue the bones or whatever, then he should dismiss his current appeal to pursue that or whatever. And you got the wording in the remand of that back to the district court. You got the impression that whoever it was writing that opinion for the Court of Appeals was not amused. And so that in and of itself suggests to me that there's some concern over there. So that's the way I would answer that question.
Yep.
So, all right, there you go, Stacy.
So what do we think? Do we think that the Court of Appeals is going to do the right thing?
I'm not gonna speculate that far.
Okay.
I'm gonna go as far as to say that there's potentially a positive indicator there, and I'm gonna leave it at that.
Yeah. What could I then ask you then? Do you think that judges at all levels, but surely some of them are appointed, so some at a certain level when it comes to judges, they are not as bad as Fox and Willis? And I mean, let's face it, if you had a combination of Fox and Willis, you've got the worst of the worst,
Yes.
They as Jerry Butin explained to me in an email, he said, the reason why Judge Willis was so willing to go along with anything that Ken Kratz, Garn, and Fallon wanted was because he's human. And he's looking for re-election. But there comes a point, doesn't there, where the judges are no longer elected, they're appointed.
Yeah, federal judges are appointed.
Right? But also these judges, these judges in the District Court of Appeals, they're there for as long as they want to be, aren't they?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either.
I think they're elected.
You think they're elected? All right. Okay.
I don't know
I
either.
I could be wrong.
But there comes a point where you get sort of these people are suitably removed from having the kind of interest in the case that, for example, Angela Sukovich does. Clearly she's had previous dealings with Stephen Avery, and maybe she was duped, like everybody else like most people, shall I say, in Wisconsin were, about the fact that you've got this guy Stephen Avery, he's from a scrapyard, and look, he's gone and murdered this photographer.
But in fairness, you as a professional person holding high office, such as a judge does, there's no such thing, or should be no such thing, as being duped. You're there to do a professional job, right? Irrespective of your view about a particular matter, there's a process to undertake. And she failed that miserably, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, but I suppose looking at Stacey's question about the corruption, is there corruption? I think there is, all the way up to the top, isn't there? You've only got to look at, our previous Attorney General, Wisconsin's previous Attorney General. You've only got to look at that idiot and think, of course, there's corruption, isn't there?
Well, there's certainly. I think you need to see. I think you need to look at the corruption, whether is it systemic in the organisational structures or is it with the individual people, or is it both? This current Court of Appeals process that is coming before us shortly, I think we just keep our powder dry and see whether they can prove us to be honourable men and women in performing their duty. I mean, the pain of this thing's not going to go away until everyone's satisfied that they disperse their obligations properly. So,
right.
Yeah, for me, the problem is, that you've got these people making decisions, and the judges allow the prosecutors to do what they like, and the prosecutors allow the police to do what they like, because there's no, self-regulation clearly in that situation isn't working, and it's a question of, sometimes we do live in a world where you have to give people occasionally that little bit of leeway to sort of, just stretch the rules a little bit, but it's when they're blatant, bending and then breaking of the rules, that's when it becomes a problem, isn't it?
Right. Yeah.
That's when you really do get these corrupt cases that we are seeing, like the likes of your Kevin Cranes of this world, the Jim Hardings of this world, the Len Kaczynskis of this world, and the prizes of this world. They are just,
those sort of people just become so ingrained with the thought that they're better than everyone else, right? That they're not accountable to anyone, that their views are much more valuable than the views of the guy working down the street, sweeping leaves. And it's really a dangerous thing. I've watched Dreamkiller 3 times now, and there's a little scene there where Kevin right, is summing up to the jury, and he's the theatrics of him describing how, in his view, that Ryan Ferguson, strangled that gentleman with a belt. I mean, the look on Crane's face when he was doing that, I mean, it's just disgraceful. And they do that because they feel no sense of obligation or no accountability whatsoever. And that's where the problem arises. They just think they're better than everyone else and they can get away with stuff. That part has to change.
Right.
So,
I mean, if you remember right at the beginning of Sean Atwood's book, he spells it out quite clearly, and I think even to a certain extent, Mike Griesbach in his book, don't kid yourself that this is a court of law. This is pure theatre.
Yeah.
Pantomime at times, isn't it?
Yep.
Right. All right, so let's move into the final area of this, which would be the $50 million bullet, since you already kind of touched on it already when you brought up William Griesbach. So mainly, I think the main thing I wanted to talk about was, number one, I think it's important for Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey supporters to be aware of it. I don't expect you to go looking and digging into the documents on it and everything like that, but be aware of it. Help us promote it. Help us create awareness for it. Because, like I said, what I'm ultimately hoping for here is to get to that Wisconsin again moment for people who have watched MAM, who will end up seeing this thing and going, Wisconsin again? And that's really the moment I want to see people get to with this. Because not everybody dug into the documents like me and many others and all that sort of stuff. So I think it's going to be interesting for those people who maybe felt like they were able to dismiss MAM, who will then see something like that and go, wait a second, and to see, literally lightning striking twice, right? So then it will become more evident to more people that there's something not right going on there to allow 2 situations like this. So that's what we're basically looking at. So you're going to be at a rally coming up next year, right? Well, whether a celebration party happens before then, but if no celebration party happens before then, you're going to be at a rally next year, right?
Age before beauty. Oh yes, yes.
Yes. Yeah, I am. Yeah. Yep.
And Paul, I know, is a maybe.
It's unfortunately, yes. I'm going to have to say a maybe. Hoping for. What I would say about the obviously the $50 million bullet. First
One thing
thing,
I was going to get to before I let you go is that when we're going to be there at Raleigh next year, folks, the day after Raleigh is the start of filming for $50 million bullet. So it's something to keep in mind. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, when you look at the $50 million bullet, and you know David Starr's trailer alone, I sent an email to Aaron Olson, my good friend, the chief of police at Nina, and I very, very briefly, I just said, I have just watched a trailer for this film. Words fail me. When you've got Hoffa being told explicitly, you're not doing anything else in this case, and then he's telling his boss, "Oh, I was cleared." It's just, you know, all I said was, I said, I have never seen this footage before. Have you? Yeah. And he simply replied back with, "I'm having a meeting with David Starr." I think maybe even he is beginning to realise, you know, I mean, first of all, this $50 million bullet film is exactly the sort of thing that Netflix are gonna love, aren't they? They're gonna, you know, it's going to be absolutely the sort of thing that they're going to want to cover.
It could be, yeah.
You know, and what I would say to people who haven't had much interest in the $50 million in the, you know, Eagle Nation cycle so far, for me the big connection is the way that the state have tried to brush it all under the carpet. Brad Schimmel has, you know, came out and apparently there was this 50-odd page document that nobody can find. I certainly can't find it anywhere. That completely exonerates. You know, did you know that they, Nina Police, Wisconsin, they have never even apologized to Michael Funk's family?
Right. Well, yeah, there's been no... amongst the problem you just brought up with Hoffer, there's also my issue with the fact that the hostages in this case, the actual victims in this crime, were treated like criminals. They were treated like suspects. Yeah. And they were never offered any kind of grief counseling. I mean, they were held hostage and their friend was killed. They were never offered anything.
The police are saying it was an ambush. You hear the policeman saying there wasn't any hostages there. That was an ambush.
Right.
And so therefore anybody coming out of that building, just shoot them.
That's basically what Hoffer was. That's the narrative that they were trying to establish.
How many bullets did they unload into
19.
Michael Funk? I mean, seriously.
And,
you know, that just shows you where the head's at, right?
And you hear Hoffer at one point bragging about the fact that one of them, him or Ross, put one between Michael Funk's headlights. Yeah. That's basically between his eyes. And he was bragging about it proudly.
Yeah.
So
it's frightening how that kind of vigilante thing jumps into any number of police officers' minds when they think they're so righteous about what they're doing, you know. The proper thing would have been, I mean, Michael Funk had a weapon with him, I think, didn't he? Albeit he wasn't brandishing it.
He had a concealed weapon that he was pulling out as he was getting behind the truck and looking back at the door. As he was turning around, he was pulling it out because he was afraid Fladoff was going to come out of that door at any second.
Yeah. So the police at the very worst could have wounded him, right, and overrun him easily. They didn't need to pump 19 bullets in him like it's some sort of rag doll.
Well, the excuse there is he kept moving.
So what?
As a body will do when you fire a high velocity round into it, but anyway.
What? I mean, did he keep moving, holding his weapon all that time?
Basically, the only movement was coming from the weapons being fired into him.
Correct. It's this classic vigilante approach to law enforcement when they get their head into that position. And obviously the issue about what was going on with Eagle Nations at the time, fueled, in my view, at least in the minds of some, that, massive overreaction to what was going on.
Oh.
So,
yeah, but we've also got
history,
the issue that
there's a lot of baggage that goes along with this. That's just like, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah. 3 months previously, Hoffa and Michael Funk
face with Michael Funk,
face to face. Hoffa knew exactly who Michael Funk was, and Hoffa was the one that, because there's this 20 seconds of footage missing when they did this drugs raid, and they found they thought they were going to find a marijuana factory,
right?
Mm-hmm.
And yet they didn't. They all they found was a tiny speck of marijuana or something,
about a size about the end of your pinky finger, the end segment of your pinky finger, about that size. Mm-hmm. And they actually thought they were going to find a drug operation, most likely hoping to find heroin, speed, cocaine. They were looking for something like that. But ended up ultimately finding only that. They didn't even press charges on that because they were so embarrassed, because they had raided with the intent of, finding all that, like a drug lab or something like that. And they they came up with the big nothing. And then the only thing they did find came after 20 seconds of missing footage on the surveillance tapes. So that's not very helpful.
Yeah, but originally, when this all happened, the two things that the police department claimed immediately in press statements. One, they claimed that one of their officers had been shot and was taken to hospital.
Right.
Well, he did something in between that, didn't he? And number two, they claimed that Michael Funk was given fair warning, to throw his weapon down or whatever, that he was somehow, the police officers addressed him in a certain way, the way that you would normally do in a hostage situation, or police put your weapon down, and any kind of warning whatsoever. And that's what they claimed had happened.
Right.
And yet the footage, when they got the footage back, proved otherwise.
Right.
But of course, typically what they did was the case went up to Mr. Schimmel, who decided that there was no basis for any legal action against the Hoffa. Is that right?
He deemed it was okay. He deemed, but ultimately it was in a court. Travis is good at this, being able to explain it, but ultimately in court, Hoffer and Ross were let off because of the way, the criteria of how they look at these situations. Unfortunately for me, that criteria needs to change. It needs to take into account if an officer's been hit by a bullet, that he needs to be removed from the situation. Do not pass go, do not collect $200, get the hell out. That should be it. You're done for the day.
Yeah, because once that's already happened, it distorts his sense of balance. Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. So. Yeah.
So that's pretty wild, but Olsen, I don't know what's up with him, and I don't know how aware he is, but just the footage from that trailer alone, showing, because I had only seen that part, or I'd only read in the transcripts the part where that female officer was telling Hopper, "No, that's it, you're done," and he's like, "Oh no, there's not enough people," and she's like, "We got enough people." He's like, "No, you don't," and she's like, "No, you're done." I had only read that in the DCI transcripts. So seeing that on actual video, I was like, oh, wow. You know, I mean, that was very interesting to see. So,
do you think that there was it was a case of Hoffa went back to a to get revenge on somebody, i.e. shoot them, or do you think there's something deeper here, whereby he knew that he had an opportunity to take somebody out?
I don't want to go that far as to say that. All I can say is there's maybe a possibility of what you're suggesting. I will say this. The police were told by Steve Arado, who was a co-owner of Eagle Nation Cycles, who was down in the basement during this whole situation. And he was on 911, and he was feeding 911 and the Nina PD information the whole time. One of the very, very first things he told them, and he repeated it often, was that the people inside that were wearing Eagle Nation attire were hostages. The one person inside that wasn't wearing Eagle Nation attire was flat off. They had this information. It was given to them long before Michael Funk came running out that back door. So that's another thing to consider.
Sorry, this is I just caught a little bit of what you were saying earlier. This isn't to do with any. Well, this is to do in general. But you were saying something about a YouTube boycott over the next few days.
Yeah. So this is the last video that'll be on my channel for the next 3 days. So Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday is a YouTube walkout that a lot of creators are getting together and doing this to observe this, to not necessarily bring YouTube to its knees or cripple him or anything, but to create a significant blip and to get YouTube thinking that if creators were to band together, it could be a significant thing. So I think it's kind of a way of creators getting together to kind of try to flex their muscle a little bit and kind of get YouTube to take them seriously. And so, and it's a fair thing, because like I said in my video earlier, it's frustrating sometimes. You know, you go through the trouble of making this content, you put the time into making it, and the minute you upload the dang thing, YouTube demonetizes it, and so you have to challenge it. And by the time you win that challenge, well, 1,000, 1,500 people have already watched the video, and now it's not getting as many views. So it's like, it seems like they're consistently just trying to screw you out of the time where the most people are watching your video. And so that gets a little frustrating. It gets a little, just like whatever. I mean, I'm not really necessarily mad at YouTube, but I want to show solidarity with the other creators who at least want to let YouTube know, we're out here, we're aware of what's going on. The other problem YouTube has is that their rules and what their the things that are supposed to be like the rules and guidelines, it seems like are constantly moving the bar. Like the bar, it seems like that bar is constantly moving on some things, because you can never quite seem to figure out what's going to set them off and what's not. And sometimes things do, and sometimes things don't, and it's difficult to find out the rhyme and reason sometimes to all of these various rules and whatever. So I think this is just creators getting together to just go, hey, come on, YouTube, deal straight with us. Get rid of this BS and let's have a healthy relationship. So.
Yeah, I mean, they need quality content to give any life to their organization, their business. So.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what it is, and so I'm going to observe it for the next 3 days, and I'll probably be working on something for the next 3 days, and then I'll have it uploaded for Friday night for everybody.
I'm not a monetized.
Saturday we're going to be out with the banner. So sorry, what?
I'm going to say I'm not monetized. So I mean,
yeah. So you're not feeling that frustration yet.
Well, what I was going to point out, of course, is that I have come across the various people talking about this, and one of the issues that seems to be concerning them is the fact that it seems to be a way of limiting freedom of speech.
Right.
This is one of the issues. I'm not too sure whether it is a monetary issue or whether it is maybe it's a mixture of the two.
Yeah. Well, it's part of this whole COPPA thing that's recently come up, which is the Children Online Predator Protection Act. And it's changing the way things, it's changed. YouTube is worried about it, and so they're making creators aware of it, and it's basically kind of complicated, and it looks like another way for YouTube to minimize people's videos. So if you say your video is not for kids, then YouTube views that as a limited audience, and so you probably won't get as much monetarily from your videos, right?
Yeah.
Because they want stuff that can be shared with kids, because they know that probably primarily kids are the ones watching videos. I would say it's probably primarily adults making videos, but it's probably primarily kids watching them, or adolescents or young adults.
Mm-hmm.
So, but
yeah.
Well, you have something else?
No, it's just that you've got this freedom of speech business,
right.
and apparently what I can gather is that the idea is that if there is then a channel which is sort of limited towards its focusing on certain things, that then that YouTube can then just delete that channel.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, have you heard about that? Have you heard about that?
Who knows what YouTube can do and what they can't do?
So this is really a protest at that, to make them sort of think again?
I'm thinking that YouTube creators are kind of trying to show some solidarity, and probably in the hopes that they can get YouTube's attention with a significant drop, a blip in the views and the uploads, so that they can hopefully get YouTube to take them a little more seriously. Look, the struggle's real. I feel frustrated with YouTube too sometimes, because I can't seem to get a handle on their policies and their whatevers. I mean, it's frustrating. I mean, I'm willing. See, I'm the type of guy. I do things the way that they're supposed to be done. I will follow a set of rules regarding things, because generally following the rules means less problems. It means less trouble, or less whatever, right? Now, not always. Sometimes I don't always follow the rules, but I tend to be a rule follower, and I tend to respect the rule of law, and I tend to, that's just the way I am. But where was I going? I've lost my train of thought.
You're saying that you're a rule follower. when it comes to YouTube, you're following all their rules.
I'm following all their rules, right? And I'm inclined to do that, but when I can't define what the rules are, and I can't, and I constantly feel like the bar is moving, it gets frustrating. It's just it gets exhausting.
Sorry. I was just going to say, is there such a thing as a YouTube Publishers Association where you can collectively, band together and have some body or some number of people represent the interest to YouTube itself?
Could be.
For want of a better term, like a union, but I don't mean a union. To me, that's a more powerful thing to do than, one-off stuff. So, clearly YouTube rely on quality content for people to subscribe to channels, and subscriptions draw advertisers' revenue. So, to me, the power would exist in a collective, even if there was a nominal membership fee, to cover some costs, $10 a year or something. But to me, I don't know. I mean, there are just the fun YouTube posters which do it just because it's just something they want to do. But the serious ones like you two, you need your interests protected, and I don't think you can do much on your own. You have to do it through a collective.
Right. Well, that may be the eventual thing, or maybe it might have to move to a different platform eventually. I don't know. Right now, I'm not overly upset with YouTube. I just felt like, because I have felt that upset with YouTube in the past, that I wanted to go ahead and kind of show solidarity with other creators who have gone to the trouble of organizing this and making it something of a to do, you know. So I figured I'd go ahead and show my solidarity with them, because I have been frustrated in the way that they are in the past, you know.
So you're saying that you got frustrated and annoyed and complaining. I mean, me and Mark have never heard you complain about anything.
Pepperoni. Yeah, never. No, yeah. Especially not about summer sausage.
Hang on. What are we talking about now?
Exactly. Sure eat some.
You forget, but they also put that damn shit on my pizza.
Yes, they did. Yes. They
put that freaking summer sausage on my pizza and tried to call it pepperoni.
It's a big conspiracy. It's a big conspiracy.
I've never in my life ever seen Battleship Gray pepperoni. Ever.
Yep.
It depends how old the pizza is, I guess.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. And did you notice how difficult it was to find Dr. Pepper? Because Mark had been around all the shops and told them.
You forgot those ones. God, what were they called? Dang it. The red and white sign. I can't remember now. Anyway.
Yeah.
Where was this?
I can't remember which they were. They had like a red and white sign. It's like a convenience store down there, because I saw them all over the place.
Yeah, you went to the one at the Marvel Stadium.
Yeah, there was one right there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we wondered where.
But yeah,
we wondered whether he'd gone, and that's what it was. Mark says, "Fuck is he? He's gone to find Dr. Pepper." But no.
And that one only had diet. I remember anyway.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, though, getting back to this children protection thing. You know, I respect that. I think that's a good idea. You're saying that the majority of YouTube is to do with presumably gamers, isn't it? You know.
Well, there's a lot of that. I don't know. YouTube's pretty diverse. I mean, you got guys out there showing you how to work on your car. You got people out there. I
looked at one of those.
There's so many different how-to videos out there, and
they're good.
Yeah.
I was just looking at a guy. I had a faulty. What did I have? My battery wasn't recharging on my mower, and so went to YouTube, got the right engine and the right thing, and showed me what I needed to do. So
your alternator's bad. Go get one of these.
Yeah. But yes, I mean, the bottom line, of course, is that what we are doing is we are discussing making a murderer. Now, you know, making a murderer, is it a 15 or an 18? I can't remember, but certainly it's certainly not for kids, is it?
Oh, I mean, it's certainly not for kids. I mean, I'd say on every video, it's not for kids. I mean, no, it's certainly not. I don't know if kids are watching it, but it's certainly not. The videos are not made with kids in mind.
No,
that's definitely not.
No, horses for courses. So,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I mean, yeah,
true
crime isn't necessarily something you think kids are generally.
Doing. I mean, if maybe YouTube could give us an adult rating, maybe that would attract even more people.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's the better way for YouTube to handle this, is to create, true crime genre for YouTube, so that the people that are talking about that can go there.
Yeah.
And be unfettered. You know what I mean? And the advertisers that want to advertise on true crime stuff can advertise on true crime stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Just like if they wanted to on TV, they'd go to Investigation Discovery, or they would advertise during Dateline, or whatever, those types of shows that cover the true crime community. So anyway,
I think they have a certain amount of that already, because when you go on YouTube, it has recommendations on various categories.
Yeah, but there's still like there's not like one that says true crime. You know what I mean? The one I picked is like something like entertainment and something or other, this and that, whatever. I don't know, whatever. I mean, there was nothing that I felt fit what I was doing. I remember, and I ended up just picking one that was just kind of general enough that I felt it wouldn't be too bad.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the first 100 videos I ever did, I didn't realise that you could change the category. So I mean, the first 100, I'm down as comedy.
Oh, comedy.
Nothing's,
yeah. Well,
nothing's changed.
Nothing's changed. You're still comedy. Still the Havering Scott.
Talking about rules.
Oh yes.
I'm hoping to have him on very soon. So
Rule.
Look forward to that. Rule, yes. Yeah.
I've been meaning to have him on too, but I can only do it on the weekends because of the time difference, and then on the weekends he seems to often be busy. So anyway.
Yeah. So I'm hoping to get that set up soon. And also our good friend Andrew has been corresponding with a DNA expert.
Yep, he's been talking to me all day today.
Yep. I presume you basically came up with the same two questions that I came up with, which was how do you end up with 90 times more DNA on a
No, I asked it a little differently. I asked him to ask the guy, what is the typical or average amount you would get on a swab from doing a buccal or a groin swab? Like, what would be the normal kind of average amount you would get on a swab from doing one of those samples? And that's what I wanted to know. Because if he says somewhere in the neighborhood of 1.9 nanograms, then I'm going to be like, go. So, yeah. So that's where I'm headed with that. But yeah. And Andrew's pretty excited about that. I like Andrew, man. The kid's got a lot of energy. He's it's great. I love him.
Yeah, I mean, for me though, the question I would love to ask would be, law enforcement people, who in their right mind only swabs the hood latch,
right, and nothing else that he might touch, right?
What's he doing? Is he some sort of Harry Potter? He can do everything else, with his wand, but then has to actually touch the hood latch. What on earth is going on there?
Yeah. Right.
Aliens.
Yeah.
Hey, I had a thought that maybe
go for it.
Maybe it's literally just off my head, so you can think about it and maybe promote it. Is that maybe you could ask people in the MAM community to put out a MAM Christmas message that simply says, what I want for my MAM Christmas is, and see what they come up, like a 10-second video, and then you could just piece them together and play them, in over time.
Yeah,
yes,
like
yes, Mr. Finger.
Years ago, similar to
what
we did a couple years ago.
Yeah. Series 3.
Well, there's the idea, folks. Basically, what he's saying is he's encouraging you all to potentially put together a little 10-second clip saying what your MAM wish is this year for Christmas, and send it to us, tweet it to us, however you get it to us, somehow.
Yeah.
And so we can put together a little video of Stephen and Brendan supporters stating their MAM wishes for Christmas. So if you guys are interested, let us know. Like I said, tweet them over, send them over, message them over, however you get them over to us. We'd love to be able to do that. So
I'll just write some on a bit of parchment, hand it to Captain Crunch, and he can hand it to you the next time he's in port visiting home.
All right, folks. It is way past my bedtime. I need to go ahead and get out of here. The Scotsman is beginning to haver heavily here, so that's usually an indicator that it's time to...
Where's that lever?
That's a big lever.
So, it's been fun here, folks. Wanted to do something special here tonight because I was going to be off for 3 days, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. Goodbye, Mark. Goodbye, Paul. Thank you for being here, obviously.
All the best.
Always a
See you in
pleasure
3
to have
days.
you. And everybody out there, if you haven't already, please hit subscribe, and we'll see you.